to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Girl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Listen, I'm going to talk about the hearing. Hold on. I'm coming. Just wait a second. I'm coming. I promise, because, you know, there's a lot to be said about that. That was a whole lot of something, but I'm going to talk about it. But first, you know, I got a rant. Dan Carden of Shelbyville News reports a new state law aims to reduce Indiana's high maternal mortality rate by ensuring pregnant Hoosiers have access to health care services for the duration of their pregnancies and beyond. House Enrolled Act 1140, which immediately took effect March 14th after being signed into law by Republican Governor Eric Holcomb, authorizes pregnant individuals whose family incomes are less than 208% of the federal poverty level to receive low or no cost health coverage. Y'all, this is so important. Now, you see, I'm starting off with good news, right? I'm starting off with good news because we already know Indiana is at the bottom when it comes to infant and maternal mortality. We've got to do better. So let me give you the eligibility requirements. To be eligible, a one-person household must earn less than, unfortunately, $28,268. A two-person household, less than $38,085 a year. A three-person is $47,903 a year. And for a four-person, or let's say, four-person, it's $57,720. Obviously, you guys can log on to the Medicaid site, get signed up, and make sure that you are meeting those thresholds. But this is important. This is positive news. When you consider all of the garbage that's coming out of the State House, this is actually some good news. As Vanessa Summers says, our state's maternal health rankings are shameful. This bill will eliminate red tape and save lives. The permanent expansion of the postpartum care will align with the findings of the MMRC and the needs of Hoosier women. So, y'all, you see how I do this? I start off with good news. The legislation was approved 93-1 in the House and 49-0 in the Senate. So, you guys, make sure if you find yourself in a financial distress situation and you are pregnant, right, your amount of money should not determine if you and your child survive childbirth. Get yourself signed up. I don't have the link, nope. But Google Medicare, Medicaid, Google it, and get yourself signed up. All right, so y'all want to hear some crazy news? Y'all ready for the stupid? I mean, I'm starting off with like roses and sunshine. You know I got to come back with some crazy, right? The Indianapolis Star reports in a press call Tuesday, Senator Mike Braun, you know, the Indiana senator, said the U.S. Supreme Court was incorrect in legalizing interracial marriage in the landmark Loving decision in 1967. Braun's comments came during an open-ended conference call with media, during which he discussed confirmation hearings for President Joe Biden's Supreme Court nominee, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. That's when he began discussing what he called judicial activism. Now, mind you, let's be clear. It's only judicial activism when it's a progressive or a liberal, but if it's a conservative who want to take away a woman's right to choose what she does with her body, that's not activism. I want you to understand there is a difference to them. When it comes to issues, you can't have it both ways, Braun said. When you want that diversity to shine within our federal system, there are going to be rules and proceedings. There's going to be out of sync with maybe what other states will do. It's the beauty of the system. And that's where the differences among points of view in our 50 states ought to express themselves. Of course, just a few hours later, he tried to say he misunderstood the question. Now, see, I got a problem with the fact that I got a U.S. senator that can't understand a basic question. But I heard the exchange. And they said, so are you saying they were wrong for passing Loving? He was like, yeah, kind of, yeah. Yeah, they were. So basically, he was saying that let's be clear. States' rights have always been about the subjugation of people of color. So stop tripping. And the fact that you are saying a state or other people in the state can determine what my rights are, we got issues. And on top of that, there's a lot of people who fall in love with who they fall in love with. The level of melanin in their skin has nothing to do with it. They find a connection. Leave these people alone. Why would you even say that? But see, Mike Braun, being the idiot that he is, once again, another Hoosier, has made Indiana look like we don't have any institutions of higher learning anywhere. Now, our party's chairman, Mike Schmuel, said, who was the chairman of the party, said it was un-American. The United States Supreme Court has affirmed many times that marriage equality in our country extends to any committed couple, regardless of sex, race, orientation, or religious affiliation. And to question that legitimacy questions the very fabric of America and its people. Now, see, normally I would just stop with the Democrat, but the Republican chair had the audacity to chime in as well. In an email statement, he says, rights are so intrinsic that they cannot be left up to states, and one of those is ensuring racial equality. As for my thoughts on the issue at hand, I believe there are some rights that are so intrinsic to us as humans and Americans that the states cannot be left to decide those issues on their own. That includes ensuring racial equality in all aspects of life. Now, I agree with this Republican. I agree with him vehemently. But the problem is they don't practice what they preach. They consistently, in all 50 states, continue to introduce legislation that marginalizes one group or another, or tries to determine what rights are acceptable or not. Trust me, as a gay Black woman, they've attacked every side of me. Oh yes, I'm a Gemini, so that's like 6 of me, because there's 3 on one side and 3 on the other. Yes, they come for me quite regularly. I just want y'all to know, they said a thing, but they don't actually mean a thing. Just like when the Republicans talk about their diversity and inclusion program, and they got this particular individual running around talking about how the party needs to be more inclusive. I'm sorry, I don't understand why anybody would want to be associated with an organization that works vehemently to disenfranchise them and marginalize them in every aspect of our society. Y'all go figure that out. I ain't got time. But on some other good news, because, you know, crazy is just crazy. Let's just follow some crazy up with more crazy. You know, they passed that anti-trans girl bill, and the governor had the, I'm going to say the ovaries, because, you know, balls seem to be in short supply. He had the ovaries to veto that bill. The Indiana House School Athletic Association on Wednesday commended Republican Governor Eric Holcomb's veto of a bill banning transgender females from participating in girls' school sports after the association previously held back from taking an explicit stance on the proposal. I can't even talk today, y'all. IHSAA Commissioner Paul Nedig expressed reservations that the proposed legislation only addressed a single gender and the grievance procedure. The flexibility to assess competitive advantage in each unique case, although the association has not had any transgender girls finalize a request to play on a girls' sport. Protecting the integrity of girls' sports is a worthy cause. That said, the specific language included in HB 1041 does not adequately address all of the issues at hand. So, you know, I'm gonna say thank you, Governor. I know that your General Assembly has, for the most part, y'all not been in sync on what the agenda should be, or what it was or what it wasn't for this General Assembly session. And they kind of went off and did some things that you were like, why are we doing this? Thank you for vetoing that. But here's the thing, y'all. May 24th, mark your calendars. May 24th, the General Assembly is going to meet to discuss whether or not they should override the veto, because they have that power. So even though he vetoed it, it is not done. We still have those legislators who are like, we want to make sure that we codify that trans girls are second class, third class, fourth class citizens forever. So mark your calendars. If you can be a part of the resistance, then be a part of the resistance. May 24th, they're going to revisit this. It's not over. The fight is not over. All right. Did I do enough of a rant? I wanted to get some stuff in there. I want to do some good news and some bad news. But you know how I get excited when it's ladies' night. Indiana's own Dana Black Turn Left. You know I love it when I have, don't get me wrong, fellas. I love y'all too. Y'all know I do. Y'all know I do. But when I get to have ladies' night, especially in Women's History Month, it makes me especially happy. So I have a returning guest and a brand new guest. Y'all, first up, let me introduce to you someone you may not know yet, but she is running in the primary in that newly drawn, newly minted district in the south side of Indianapolis, Senate District 46. And Andrea Hunley, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here, and I appreciated your rant. You've been able to say many of the things that have been on my heart and mind this week, so thank you. Always, Dana.
That's what I do, right? And I want to take the pressure off of you candidates, because y'all got to go earn votes. I'm just trying to earn listeners. Very different perspective. Very different. And a returning guest, because she ain't never given up. And I love that. She is never going to give up. My girl, she is running in House District 82, Kathy Zoucha. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Hello. It's good to see you again, Dana. It's nice to meet Andrea. District 82 has also been newly drawn, so there's no incumbent.
Ooh.
And yes.
So I love it. I love it.
It's wide open as well. And I too enjoyed your rant. I would like to point out something about the maternal mortality rate and the infant mortality rate in the state of Indiana has been horrendous for years. And it's something that's been discussed for years, and it's something that really hasn't been worked on for years. And so it's about time that we address the fact that we have too many babies, especially Black babies, who don't make it born, and who don't make it to their because they didn't have good enough care, and then once they were born they didn't survive, or a year after they were born they didn't survive. It's just we need to have better care, especially to lower especially that Black infant mortality rate.
Absolutely, especially when you know the people who are in charge, the supermajority, and have all the statewide seats claim to be pro-life. You would think this is a no-brainer, wouldn't you, Andrea?
Absolutely. And in Marion County, where we're at in Indianapolis, only 54% of Black women seek care in their first trimester, and it's even lower for Latina women at 44%. And so I'm really hoping that this legislation will increase that access so that more moms will get care early on, which will help with both the infant and mother mortality rate.
I love it. So before we get into y'all's campaigns, before we get into the agenda, so y'all been watching the SCOTUS hearings? Have y'all been watching Judge Jackson bring the super cool funk? Tell me, I'm gonna jump in, but y'all tell me what it feels and how are you feeling watching that sister take on all the questions, but she's sitting in the seat. And Andrea, I'm gonna start with you, sis.
I'm gonna tell you honestly, Dana, it made me feel exhausted. And because I have been in versions of that seat so many times, and for the same reason that I can't watch the George Floyd tapes, I could not watch much of the hearing because it was just so painful and so frustrating that we still are in a place where a highly qualified, the most qualified person in the room will still be attacked and still be badgered and will still be discredited because of the color of her skin. And so today, of course I, watch when she gets to raise her right hand, and I just sat and allowed myself a moment to just breathe it in and be so proud, not just for Judge Brown, but for all of our ancestors who helped pave the way for her to be where she's at today, and for all the little girls who are watching who can now dream even bigger.
The little melanated little girls, honey. Come on now. The little melanated ones. Yes. Kathy?
Well, what I thought about was grace under pressure. I was watching her, and whenever she would give an answer, I just thought, oh my gosh, she's so bright. She's so qualified. She's so intelligent. She is just so patient. I mean, look at her.
That was
What is going on behind those eyes? Like, because I'm talking to the TV and I'm saying that was a really stupid question. And why are you talking about children's books? When do you do that to male judge candidates? Do you go about do you read children's books to male candidates as well? I've never seen that happen before. I just really did see that there was a different litmus test for her than what I've ever seen. And I do watch these hearings. I find them very interesting.
Yeah, I find them interesting too, and I've watched as much as I can, and then when I have to stop, I'm literally watching it on YouTube, and I press pause, and I go back and watch. That's how, like, I'm in the bed watching the rerun, right? And so, she's a melanated sister, and she a brown melanated sister. So I'm like, I'm super excited because, we've had multiple women and women of color throughout history who have been equally or more qualified than the people who have been certified on our Supreme Court. So let us be clear. She's the first one called up, but she ain't the first one. As like, for all my baseball fans, Jackie Robinson, he was great, but he wasn't the greatest one in the Negro Leagues. You know what I'm saying? She was the first one called up. Second, they knew that they didn't have anything on her. They already confirmed her 3 other times, right? So all this was grandstanding, and it backfired horrendously. I actually enjoyed watching the Ted Cruzes and the Josh Hollies and the Tom Cottons because they look so damn stupid. So while they're out there like throwing meat to their base, they forgot that there's like 70 million people. They forgot there were 80 million of them going, y'all stupid. So, and then the children's book is now a bestseller. Y'all don't even realize, dumb. You didn't have any and then Lindsey Graham, okay. See, and y'all gonna be mad when I say this, but I just really want him to get his Rainbow Warrior cape out, honey, because did the Queen just stump off to exit stage left? Like, he put the Queen in drama queen. I'm sorry. So it was incredibly entertaining. Now, for the sentimental part, obviously it was humbling to see her mom sitting there, her dad sitting there, her family, and the FOP. And for me, the part that ripped my heart out and had me in tears was Senator Cory Booker, and he said, "Y'all are not gonna steal my joy." Right?
Well, and I loved the reference of Ginger Rogers. I do everything Fred Astaire does, but I do it backwards and in high heels. And that's what I was looking at when I was watching her. It's funny that he said that because I was thinking the same thing during the whole hearing, is that look at how much more she has to do.
Absolutely. And Andrea, we know that.
And I did watch, Cory Booker's statement to her, and just that single tear, that was just falling down, and just all of that emotion that was in there. And I thought, sister, we are there with you. We are there with you. And I'm so glad that he just blessed over her.
Yes.
And just continued to give her that shield, because she needed it, just helping her to restore her strength, because while she's very, very strong, I think that we also have to remember that, Black women are human. Yeah. And that we feel all of those things. And I think that it was really important for him to give her that moment.
Absolutely. And I think what was great about it was anybody who listened also had a tear. So it wasn't like, you guys treated me so bad. It wasn't like that. He gave her a blanket of coverage. He covered her. He anointed her at that moment to say, it's okay, boo. And there were times you could see where she was like you knew she wanted to be like, dog, get out of here with that, right? But she couldn't. She held her composure.
Well, Andrea's a principal, so she probably the judge was using her principal look. It's just sort of like, oh my gosh, you did not really just ask me that question, did you? Or, that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, mediocre people, just mediocre people questioning the bona fides of this woman who has done more than all the other ones combined. And y'all want to, and the other thing that you knew what their mission was: CRT, child molesters. Well, first of all, if you really cared about pedophiles and things like that, you wouldn't have voted for Trump. I said it. And his ilk. So you don't really care that much, or Roy Moore. You really don't care that much, right? And the CRT thing, y'all don't even know what it is. And thank you for turning, Ibram's book into a bestseller. I'm down with that. So there we go. All right, let's move on because I like talking to candidates. Candidates are awesome, right? Running for office is a beautiful thing. So Andrea, you're new to the show. Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Yes, so I am from Fort Wayne, Indiana, Kathy's place. That's where I grew up. I was a child who started out in the foster care system prior to being adopted by my parents, who, thank you very much, Mike Braun, are an interracial couple. They are one of the first generation of interracial couples who could legally be married after the Loving case. And they've been married for nearly 40 years. And so in Fort Wayne, my husband and I met in high school. So we are high school sweethearts. Also interracial couple. Thank you again. We are Indiana. I mean, we have been and we are. I started working when I was 14 at the ice cream shop, scooping ice cream so that I could save up money to go to college. And so I became the first person in my household to attend 4-year college. In my freshman year of college, my dad was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition and underwent 8 surgeries in 2 years.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I had to pick up more jobs, became a resident assistant, and so I could cover my room and board. But that also meant then I had to take out more student loans that I continue to pay off today. Still have a few more years on those.
Just a few?
And I know.
Look at you.
The struggle. And now I'm a mom to 2 lovely children who attend the school that I'm principal at. And so I was a teacher for several years. I taught high school English, and I've been a principal for the past 10 years in IPS at a kindergarten through 8th grade school. And then my husband and I also own a small business, Second Street Creative, that we do web branding and for small businesses.
We should talk.
And I know all the things. And then I'm also vice president of the board of my church, and I sit on other boards in town as well.
Okay, so look, why did you want to become a teacher? Well, first, let me say this: I'm adopted too, so yay. But why did you want to become a teacher? Because if you had a student like me, you wouldn't have want to be no teacher.
Listen, I've had students like you. I already have, and I have love for every single child that comes through my door, because I know that every morning those parents send their best version of their child to school, and so that's who walks into our door, and that is who we love. And I have a gift for education. I have a gift for teaching, and I also have a gift for administration. And so, well, part of the reason I became an administrator, though, is because I also have that problem where I think I can do everybody's job better than them, which is like really a problem. And so I kept looking at my principal and going, I could do that job, and maybe if you just did this differently. And then finally they said, get your administrative license. Come on, let's do it. And so then I became an administrator. But I love children, and I love working with families.
I love it. So what was the thing that made you want to be more civically engaged and put your, did you always have an interest in politics?
Always. I was on the speech and debate team in high school and voted most likely to become the first woman president. It's just,
It's still time.
There's still time. Unfortunately, there's still time. But so I've always been interested in using my voice to advocate for my community and to advocate for what I really believe in. And that's just something that's been ingrained in me with my family. I mean, my mom, I remember her sitting at the dining room table, making signs because she was driving out to Washington, D.C. to protest the Iraq War. And she had these big signs that said, "Soccer Moms for Peace." And I mean, so activism and using our voice for what we believe in is something that's been ingrained in me. And so I've done a few different programs in town. I did Hoosier Women Forward and the Stanley K. Lacey Leadership Series, Women for Changes, Run for Ready to Run. And so over the past several years, I've volunteered on other campaigns, door knocking, phone banking, consulting about education policy. And so I knew that at some point I would run. I just thought that I would run when my kids were out of high school. But they redistricted. And so they drew this map. And as I kept looking at the map, I kept looking at it and thinking, these are my families. These are the people I've been serving for the past 17 years here in Indianapolis. And I thought, my families can't wait. They can't wait for it to be convenient for me. They can't wait because they need someone in office now who knows them, who knows their needs, who carries their stories with them every single day, who's ready to represent them and fight for them. And so I talked to my family and got their blessing, and here I am.
I got some policy questions I'm going to ask, but you know what, Kathy? Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Okay, well, I am Kathy Zoucha, and I was born and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Wayne?
Yes, and yes, Fort Wayne. So you have two Summit City girls on. That's what we call Fort Wayne, Summit City. And anyway, I went to school here, and I also attended Indiana, Purdue at Fort Wayne. And I got a little bit of the political bug when I was there, and I was the first female student body president way back before Andrea was born. And, and then I left Indiana and moved to California. I went into medical billing, and then after that, I worked at Warner Brothers as a marketing writer for about 10 years. And then I returned to Indiana because it's back home again in Indiana. And I'm glad I'm back here. I'm with my friends, and I've got some of my family members here. And I wanted to change careers. I needed to change careers, and I became a teacher, a special ed teacher. I became interested in politics because of exactly what was happening in Indiana when I became a teacher. Was really harmful to the children of Indiana regarding education.
Right.
And what people don't understand is that Indiana in 2018 was the 5th highest state regarding the teacher shortage, and that's way before COVID. What's going on in Indiana started happening in 2011.
Right.
And we do have an extremely high teacher shortage, but that it wasn't related to COVID. It's because of policy making and nonsensical policy making. I'm going to borrow that word that Dr. Jennifer McCormick, the former superintendent of public education, would use, is that we've got nonsensical laws regarding education, and unless we do something as educators about it, we have to educate our constituents and our families so that they know that this, what's going on in the state. Mm-hmm. And when Andrea said, these are my families, over 95% of the district that I'm running in is Fort Wayne Community School District. And by the way, the largest school district in the state. And and I think of the same thing. I think my families can't wait. My kids can't wait.
Right.
So that's why I'm running again.
I love it.
I did pretty well in my last race. In my state race, I did pretty well in that. I lost by about 10 percentage points, but they did remove a lot of the precincts that I won. And they put those into another district for state senate. So when I looked at everything, I thought, the state representative district is the one I need to run in now.
I love it. And see, you go, because I've been one and done thus far, but I'm coming back. I got great representatives, so I don't need to run right now. Indiana's on the end of like turn left.
You need to run eventually.
Right. Listen, I got Greg Porter and Senator Gene Breaux. If until they decide to retire and let a young buck who ain't gonna be much younger longer get in there, you know what I'm saying? So I'm good with both of them. I'm lucky. I got great representatives. When I ran the first time, I was in purgatory. All right. Yes. So hey guys, if you like what they're talking about on this live feed, on this Facebook feed, feel free to click their donation link, because I can't donate to every candidate, but this is a way for me to have a fundraiser for these candidates. I am not endorsing anybody. However, if you like what they're talking about in the course of this discussion and you want to help their campaign out, because every campaign needs money, feel free to click on their donate link and you can donate directly to that candidate. All right, so y'all both talking about being teachers. Oh, hot dog. I got some questions. So there were a lot of funky bills that came out of the State House. And obviously 1134 was the one that got the most attention because it was the most stupid one, right? Obviously they didn't talk to teachers when they put that one together. But one of the bills that has me most concerned is, and I can't think of the number, but it's the adjunct teacher bill, where they talk about how if you have 15 minutes being a business person, you can go in and teach English or whatever the case may be, right? Or if you've been speaking English for 5 days, you can, whatever it is. And I'm being facetious, I recognize that. But they're saying if you have a skill set and some time, then you can go teach, whether or not you know how to teach. You talked about your certifications, and when you said I had to go get an administrative certification, and I also know you have to have a special certification to teach special ed. How does it make y'all feel to hear that they're taking a profession that Andrea's still paying student loans on, and they're just saying, anybody, as long as you pass a background test check, you can come and teach our kids, whether or not you know how to teach?
Yeah, I will tell you, and I hold 3 licenses. So I have a license to teach high school English as a new language, and then also my administrative license, it's PK through 12. And so, I've gone through a lot of training to sit in the seat that I do in order to work with children. At the same time, I do want to say that, and while I would have been opposed to this bill, the way that it was written, I do see why it was introduced. And part of the reason, twofold. One is to increase the number of teachers of color. And so we have to be creative in order to do that, because not all of our people of color who are in our classrooms take traditional pathways into education. And so I do think we have to be creative. However, and then I also know that another reason that they introduced this bill was because there are some content areas that are very hard to find licensed teachers in, and like our upper level mathematics or upper level sciences, think your like high school science courses, or some of our tech fields, like teaching welding, for example, like having an industry professional come in, is really beneficial. However, the reason why I would have been opposed to it is because it didn't go far enough to ensure that folks would have the proper training and determine the length of mentorship that they would have, and make sure that they know about student discipline and classroom management, which is really key.
One of the reasons that I didn't like this adjunct bill is because that these people are going to be able to negotiate their salaries themselves. And so they can actually end up making more money than the professional educator sitting next to them. I'm a big union person. The jobs where I've made what the guy sitting next to me is making have always been union jobs. I will also say that somebody asked me about this bill, and I said, nobody wants to be a teacher in Indiana. These people don't want to become teachers. Teachers don't want to be teachers in Indiana. If you think that people are going to be clamoring for these positions so that they can make far less than what they're making now, or to have to deal with as many issues that we have to deal with, I mean, it's just not going to happen. If you want to have more teachers in Indiana and get rid of it and try to cut down on that teacher shortage, put collective bargaining back. Treat us like we're like we're men. Over 75% of the teachers in Indiana are female. And so unlike the Fraternal Order of Police, which is mostly male, and they have collective bargaining and can bargain what their work site is like and what their workplace is like, we're not allowed to do that. And that was taken away from us back in 2011. We can't bargain class sizes. We can't bargain behaviors. We just really can't bargain much of anything. And what you did is you took away the humanity of teaching and you took away any sort of love that we can have as teachers,
Right.
for teachers. And then you're saying, well, we don't understand why we have such a teacher shortage. Why don't we just get people from the outside come in and teach? Then you don't understand education.
No.
And for to think that that's going to be, I love what Andrea said, classroom management, good luck there. I'm at a school where in the last 5 years, we had an engineer who was retired as an engineer, was going back to the transition to teaching program and was teaching in our school, teaching science. And we had a businesswoman who was at our school. The gentleman who was the engineer lasted approximately 3 weeks, did not go into the transition to teaching program. He could not figure out how to manage his classroom, and he was ill prepared, and he was a wonderful man. And I remember him because I'm the union rep, and I was always trying to help people as much as I could. I remember his asking me after a couple of weeks, do we all have to stay this late every night in order to get our jobs done? And I said yes, and it's unpaid. And then that's when I sort of noticed that this was not what he signed up for.
No.
And
No.
I had another teacher who was in the business world, and she lasted 2 years, and she's back in the business world. So it's not, it's not something that always works out, and it seems like a great fix, but it really isn't.
Yeah.
Well, I think to Dana's other point too about, that it sort of opens a store for anybody to, kind of come in and become teachers. And I just want to make sure that there are safeguards that our highest need kids have the highest trained teachers. And so that's my worry is that in our high need schools where we really do have even more significant teacher shortages and staffing challenges that we aren't just putting in
Anybody.
folks. Yeah, just anyone. And so I want to make sure there are safeguards in place and that we're monitoring and tracking sort of the data and percentages of folks in the building and the types of licensures that they have.
And see, I think the thing that the other thing that got me was, okay, we just lost Intel to Ohio.
Yes.
Right? We just lost Intel to Ohio because Intel said they have more college ready and post, undergrad ready people for us to hire from. We are now saying, okay, your K through 12 is where you're going to get your fundamentals of learning, right? It's just the basics, right? And you're saying that we don't even want the best people teaching. And then what'll happen is, like you said, our schools and let's be clear, the ones in lower income, majority Black and brown, are not going to get the best teachers. The best teachers are going to go to private schools or in the township schools or up in Hamilton County or some of those other places where there is a significant cultural difference, right? And when I mean cultural, I mean the environment that they're going to work in, not necessarily just the demographics of the students. But there's higher tax, revenue for those locations. Therefore, there's better opportunities. But there's going to be few and far in between. So there's going to be even a much larger disparity between the haves and the have-nots. And then on top of that, we're losing businesses. So students are going to miss out, and then regular everyday people who want to build a life here in Indiana are going to miss out because companies are not going to come here. I don't understand why they don't see that part.
Yeah, it is a challenge. I will say one thing though, that I'm really proud of the district that I'm a part of in IPS, because we have increased our teacher pay. So we're one of the highest paying in our area. And so we do attract top talent right now. Part of it is because our teachers were able to bargain for right sizing their pay.
Teacher pay? What? Yeah. You mean if you pay the teachers, they might want to come and teach?
I mean, it's not perfect yet, so don't let me, pretend like it is.
But I mean, come on. I mean, it's like simple. It's like, I mean, I'm not a scholar. I'm not an academic. But I mean, I ain't stupid either. If you pay people, they'll come and do the job.
Dana, I do want to say one thing about the quality of teachers in the lower socioeconomic schools. I'm in a very low socioeconomic school, and I cannot believe the quality of the teachers that I teach with.
That's what's up.
I just kind of look down my hall and I go, gee, I'm not even near the best one in this hall. I mean, they are, and some of them have been there for about 30 years, and this is the demographic they want to work with, and they've chosen to work with that. I would put any of those teachers in a private school. I attended a private school. They would be able to do a great job at those schools. I would say that some of the private school teachers would not be able to form relationships with our students, would not necessarily be able to do as well, as we found with the vouchers. I
Yeah.
mean, we found that the kids left our schools and their scores dropped down when they did attend the private
Wow.
schools. And that
How
was
about,
a
how
that
about
was a
that?
study that was done by the Dr. Behrens from the University of Notre Dame. And I attended a talk that he gave in Fort Wayne, and he, at that point, and this was probably about 8 years ago, he said, you know, we cannot keep giving money to the vouchers because it's not working out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this is from a Catholic university who said that it's really not working out.
It's not, but that the voucher program was never about it, they'll tell you it was about getting kids into better schools. My philosophy has always been, why don't you just make the school better? But that's just me. That's just me. So we can obviously talk about education all day, but I got to get some more stuff in. Dang it. Maybe I should consider having a 2-hour show. No, nobody's gonna watch that. All right. So our governor signed into law constitutional carry. That means that any old body can go get a gun. I'm very, very worried about this. This is one of those things that has me petrified as all get out. One, and then not for the reasons that you think. There's already plenty of guns on the street, so there's like 5 guns for every human in the country. So but what scares me is that we already know that law-abiding, permit-carrying people of color have been shot down for holding a toy gun in Walmart in an open carry place. And there was at least that line of legality that said that they were lawfully carrying. And what scares me is now they don't have anything to say whether they were lawful or not. They have a gun, bang, bang. Those are my thoughts on that particular bill. Andrea, what are your thoughts?
Well, then we're just going to assume that everyone is armed now, which is problematic if we just approach every situation that way. So I actually testified against House Bill 1077, the permitless carry bill, when it was on the House side and the Senate side. From the principal perspective and from the brain science perspective, the fact that the male brain isn't fully developed until after age 25, and so giving.
Are you sure? Oh wait, are you sure?
It could be,
because I know Lindsey Graham is way older than 25.
But so knowing that, and then knowing that we're just going to tell 18-year-olds, okay, you can go out on your birthday and and grab a gun and start carrying it, and that we've taken away the one opportunity that we had to give education about gun safety, gun storage, which was through the permit process. It was just, one little flyer, but still at least it was something. And, I was a teacher. I stood in the middle of 18-year-olds fighting over silly things. The last thing I was thinking was, let's give them guns, right? They're not wholly rational beings. And so we need to make sure we're protecting them. We talked about Fort Wayne. I grew up in Fort Wayne on a street that was riddled by gun violence. I would hear gunshots ringing out each night. I know what it's like to be in a neighborhood and in an area that has over access to guns. And the fact that our police were against it, that our sheriffs were against it, is also problematic. So I'm just infuriated by this.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's like, unfortunately, the Fraternal Order of Police ended up finding out what it's like to be the experts in something and not have people listen to you. And when the minute they said, this is going to make our jobs harder, I thought, okay, let's make like a nearly impossible job even more impossible. No, let's make it easier for them. They've got a tough gig. And so I don't like the permitless carry. I really don't. you know, I have no issue with people who own guns really legally,
Yeah,
but
they're protected by the
that,
Second Amendment. Do what you do.
hey, listen, yeah, I'll tell you, I'm a pretty good shot. So
Hey,
yes,
KZ got my back, y'all.
yes, yeah, recreationally, but this is just too important,
Yeah,
and it is it amazes me how they just went ahead and did what they were going to do anyway.
yeah. All right, I gotta turn to your campaigns because y'all, I'm having way too much fun because time is flying. All right, so Andrea, everybody has their three issues that they're on their platform as to why they're running. Go ahead and run down your three issues that are most important to you, or the three that you are highlighting the most. Yeah.
Sure. So increasing our minimum wage, it can't be the same that it was when I started working at 14 scooping ice cream, 7.25. Making sure that we have strong neighborhoods that also support small businesses as well. And then workforce development and those union apprenticeships. I think that is really key to diversifying the workforce for unions and in the trades. And then also making sure that folks have strong living wage with good health benefits as well. And then fully funded transit, which is really important here in the Circle City.
Well, I want to go back to your second one because you talked
Yeah.
about neighborhoods and economic development, because I don't think people realize the importance of economic development in every neighborhood. Why is this one of those issues that resonates with you?
Well, part of it comes down to infrastructure, as so one of the things that I do as a principal is we do home visits to all of our families. So every year I'm sitting on the couches of 50 kindergartner families as they're coming in, and so I get to see many different neighborhoods, and the disparities between neighborhoods really is unconscionable. I mean, the fact that there are neighborhoods that are riddled not only with potholes but with without quality access to broadband internet, without sidewalks, without streetlights. I mean, these types of things that if we want to have strong neighborhoods, we need to make sure that their basics are taken care of. And then that access to, do we have small businesses that we can walk to in our neighborhood, not only for the health of families, but also for the health of the community as well. Is it the grocery stores or other places like that. And so making sure that we're spending our infrastructure dollars in those ways, and we're spending them equitably, and then to reconnect our communities that have been disconnected purposefully and intentionally by our highway system. And so that's part of it as well.
So have you thought about what does that public private partnership look like? Because there's there are tax code barriers, there are zoning barriers. Obviously, that's at the municipal level, and that wouldn't be, But how can we address that at the state house, or what are some of your ideas on how to address that?
Well, it definitely has to be public and private partnerships, I think is absolutely key. And that's really what I do in my role as an administrator, as a building level principal. I'm sort of the mayor of this tiny community where we are constantly reaching out into the private sector in order to support us in the public sector. And so I think that those partnerships are key. But then also we've got to remember about our art community. And so I think that one of the things that we were able to do with those COVID CARES dollars is to give grant money to artists to have them help activate their neighborhoods. I think that we cannot discount the power of art to connect community and the power of artists to be incredibly creative. So we've seen some really great things down in Garfield Park from the work that the artists have been doing there. And so I think that getting outside of our circles of just of business and nonprofit, and actually expanding that into non-traditional small business in the artist community would be a big piece.
I love it. I love it. Kathy, what are your three issues?
Well, education, of course, is one of my issues, and we need to have fully funded kindergarten because our kids are not prepared. They're expected to come to kindergarten already knowing how to read, and that's not happening with everybody.
Yeah.
One of the things that COVID showed to us was that we don't have quality daycare. We have very expensive daycare, and it's not necessarily quality. And that when you don't have something like that, it ends up costing the state even more money. And our mothers ended up having to stay home with their children rather than working. And in some ways, Indiana just doesn't make a lot of sense with the things that it does.
No, you could just
And
stop right there. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Period.
right, yes, it just doesn't. We need to be a much more forward-thinking state than what we are, and that would be one of those things. I mean, we know that the wage gap is growing in the state of Indiana, and it's shrinking in other states. So we've got issues here. And my last one is just this whole big government. Now we are run by our Republican Party, and the Republican Party is supposed to stand for smaller government. But when I moved from California to Indiana, I just kept explaining to everybody. I said, I believe this is the biggest government state in the country. And people just were like, no, we're a Republican state. I said, no, you have no idea. We are told to everything that we have to do. We are told. And a perfect example right now, what's going on in Indiana, it's been going on for 4 years, and it's been on the news almost every night for like the last year, is that the state legislature had passed a bill. I don't know when they passed it, but it forced municipalities and cities to go with the lowest bid on certain contracts, including the trash contract. And except the city of Indianapolis is exempt from that particular bill. So
they always do a carve out for us.
They do a carve out for you, and it's so totally unfair. So what's happened here is that we had I remember one of our city councilmen, Glenn Hines, saying, I mean, I was watching it on TV, and he said, this doesn't make any sense. This contract is $2 million a year less than all the other contracts. It's just doesn't make any sense. And you know what? He was right. It didn't make any sense because they were unable to do the job. And so now they've passed another bill that's going to take effect in July, so that we're not going to have to do that. But unfortunately, it's after we have to choose our next trash contractor. I went 4 weeks without having my trash picked up, and I'm not the only one. And I don't blame the wonderful people who work for the company, but the trash trucks are miniature. They're not regular trash trucks. And we all knew something was going to happen. This just
didn't make any sense.
Quality of trash pickup just it isn't as high as it once was. And yeah, the company that we have now is in bankruptcy. It's out of Texas, and no good came from that big government bill.
Well, you're right. I mean, our government it depends on what it is, right? They want to regulate your body. They want to regulate who you can love and who you can marry, but they want unfettered regulation. They don't want any regulation on businesses that can harm us and the environment. So you're right. It depends on what it is. And it's probably the thing and that's why I hope both of y'all win. Or, well, let me say this. I hope we get D's in those seats, because, see, I already had somebody get upset with me because they thought I endorsed. I'm not endorsing. I'm just saying I'm hoping that we get D's in there, because these guys are getting paid. These people are following the money, and they're not listening to the people who they're supposed to be representing. So when you don't listen to the FOP, and you know how authoritarian police officers can be, they were ignored. They was in there like, you're not following my orders. You're resisting. You're resisting. And you're right. And there are just a lot of things that we've got to get done, and we got to get things done right away. You get one shot to partner with someone on a bill on your first, after you win your election. You're sworn in. You have your organization day. And Andrea, what's the first bill you want to work on?
Well, I would have said it one on motherhood and infant mortality, but we've just got some really great legislation passed. So I would have to say with teacher pay, that we've got to make sure that we do something with teacher pay.
Okay. Kathy?
I really do want the collective bargaining. I want us to be able to bargain our class sizes and our workplace, because a teacher's workplace is a student's learning place. And I do believe that that would be the first bill that I would really go after.
All right, I love it. Now you know what? Time is already up almost. Yeah. So, uh, Andrea, tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, I am online on the social medias at Andrea Hunley _IN. So please do follow.
Excellent, excellent. You have any events coming up?
I do. We're having a party for the people next Thursday, March 31st at 8th Day Distillery. And this will be
At what time?
Yeah, you have to come from 5
How,
to 8.
wait. At what time on Thursday? I have a
Between
thing.
5 and
I have a
8 p.m.
thing. I have a thing on Thursdays.
So it's going to be great.
Kathy, tell the people where they can find you and if you have any events coming up on Thursday.
Well, I'm on Facebook for Kathy Zoucha for Indiana, and then I also have a website, kathyzouchaforindiana.com, and that's basically where you can find me.
All right, last question tonight. It's Women's History Month. Dead or alive, political, apolitical. Tell me who your hero, shero is. Andrea, go first.
My shero is Dr. Maya Angelou through and through.
Hey, that's what's up. I love it. Kathy?
You know what? At this point, I'm gonna go with my mom.
I love it.
I think Andrea and I were both raised by strong women, and you've got to be able to see that in order to become one. And so Helen Zoucha up there in heaven, you are my hero.
I love it. Now I have to do one. I've been doing one every week, so I get to change it up. This week, I am going to holler at my besties. Did I do them last week? I can't remember. Crystal Allen and Noelle Allen. Y'all know I love y'all to death. They are amazing people. And if I did do them last week, let's see. I did Shirley. I did Barbara. You know what? I'm gonna give a shout out to Maxine Waters. Auntie Maxine. Can y'all think I can get her on the show? Can y'all imagine?
Yeah, you know, she was my congresswoman when I lived.
Can y'all see Indiana's own and Auntie Maxine on a turn left? I'm selling tickets for that one. I'm selling tickets. All right, Indiana's own Dana Black. Y'all, this is what we do every week. We are bringing you people so that you can learn about the candidates who are on your ballot. Don't ask me. Don't call me and ask me what I think. Tune into the show and hear me ask them the questions. And to all my down ballot candidates who are, you're not raising $100,000. I get that. It's not the same kind of race. If you need an online presence, you need some video work, come holler at your girl, Black Pro Studios. And if you are a larger campaign, y'all need to get with my guy Gully down in Jeffersonville, Miguel Hampton. He has a much larger studio for bigger budgets. I'm doing smaller budgets, but we have a way for you to get your presence out on social media in a nice video form, and you can share it and do whatever you want. Yes, this one is a service. This one is a service, but I'm telling you, I'm very, very reasonable. And if you like if you want to get your message out there, holla at me, Indiana's own. Yo, scan the QR code. It has all of my contact information on it. Scan it. You ain't got to try to memorize nothing. Get your phone out and scan it. All right, Indiana's own Dana Black, turn left. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. This was a great conversation. It went by way too fast. Way too fast. Y'all are awesome, and good luck in your campaigns. I hope you are as successful as you can possibly be. All right, I have 2 more guests, upper lower chamber again next week, and we're gonna keep chopping it up and talking about the issues that matter to all Hoosiers right here on Turn Left. I'll holler at y'all next week. Peace. Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.